asphyxiation death of a dog dropped from the Iditarod Trail sled dog race has outraged animal rights activists who have long criticized the 1,000-mile race as cruel.
The experiences that you have out there were just phenomenal.
Man and man's best friend braving sub-zero temperatures, an extreme test of teamwork and endurance.
They're athletes. These dogs are very enthusiastic.
But beyond the wreaths and prize money, behind the ice blue eyes and shiny coats, some allege lies a bitter story. This fall, another sports doping scandal, but this time with dogs, when Iditarod officials said 4 tested positive for a banned painkiller.
This is the first year in 25 years that we've had a positive test.
Musher Dallas Seavey, a 4-time Iditarod champ, denies drugging the dogs on his team and says that any tampering may have happened after the race while his dogs were unattended.
I have done nothing wrong. I have never knowingly broken any race rule. I have never given any banned substance to my dogs.
But a controversial new documentary called Sled Dogs,
they have no idea what is going on,
claims that neglect, cruelty, and abuse in the world of dog sledding is common practice.
It's kind of like somebody running a marathon, and tomorrow we're going to go run another marathon. And now somebody asks you to run 10 in a row. That's what these guys are doing.
As the race grinds on,
You guys just don't want the water, do you?
Levitt claims that the dogs on his team are too exhausted to even eat or drink.
I have a dog that has a high heart rate. It's a warm day, and every now and then dogs get diarrhea.
The film shows a veterinarian cautioning Beal.
His heart rate's, about 120, which is right at the very max. Honestly, I'm a little worried about him.
But he decides to continue the race anyway.
Patrick put his own needs to win that race ahead of what's best for that dog.
Many may drown, swept under by the waves. Others tire, yet there is nowhere to light. Pigeons are, properly, rock doves. They're gentle birds who have tested higher on intelligence tests than dogs and some primates. If birds come down on land but have not reached their lofts, they cannot defend themselves from predators, and they don't know how to feed themselves, having always been given commercial feed. One prominent racer wrote, "It doesn't take a Rhodes Scholar to work out what happens to our lost birds." Survivors of races who finish out of the money and those who aren't kept for breeding are referred to as rubbish, and they're typically killed after the season.
I'm quite ruthless with pigeons. They've got to perform. They get a couple of years with different hens or different cocks, and if they're not producing, they're out.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's me here, Lavender here, and today I'm going to be doing a true crime anti-capitalism deep dive of the pigeon racing industry, as well as the dog sledding industry. Capitalism, true crime, puppy mill, scientific facts, illegal gambling, etc. All my YouTube videos related to this topic right now will be on the screen right now, as well as linked down in the description down below for more if you'd like to check them out. So let's get started into this YouTube video topic. Pigeon abuse and pigeon racing is a multi-million-dollar enterprise industry. Pigeon racing is a hobby that fosters some $15 million a year. These poor birds are often kept in terrible conditions and are forced to race primarily for the gambling entertainment industry, just like horse racing and greyhound dog racing. One pigeon trainer said he believes the birds are happy to race, but of course the birds can't, tell them if they're happy or not to race, And obviously the birds do not volunteer to race, and involves the killing of thousands of birds. This and more was discovered by the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, aka PETA, who exposed the cruelty behind and the corruption behind the pigeon racing industry practice. After a 15-month undercover investigation, the animal rights group PETA presented law enforcement organizations with a book worth of evidence of what its lawyers say are illegalities in the pigeon racing sport. But the messy details are particularly disturbing. The race involves training homing pigeons who are driven hundreds of miles away from their home environments and released. The bird that flies home the quickest wins. This initially seems innocent enough, but investigators learned that in many races, most of which are 600 plus miles away, over 60% of the birds and pigeons get lost or die from harsh weather, predators, hunters, electrical lines, or mere exhaustion. Pigeon racing is not different than horse racing or greyhound dog racing. It's just as exploitative. Furthermore, some activists believe that the deliberate separation of a pigeon from its home and mates causes severe emotional trauma. This can also play a factor in some of the birds' deaths while in transit. Supporting this, said PETA, is that the fact that pigeons are complex problem solvers and have tested even higher than cats, dogs, and primates on intelligence tests. They are loyal mates and doting parents to their chicks and offspring. The mother and fathers take turns caring for their hatchlings. Capitalist pigeon racers exploit these qualities by removing birds from their mates and babies so they would be frantic enough to fly home faster. In addition, the ones who survive may bring back the avian flu disease and virus, which is dangerous for animals and humans alike. Once the racing season is complete, the babies are no longer needed. They're often culled and killed. Finally, birds in the racing industry who aren't considered fast or healthy enough are killed in a variety of ways, each more horrific and sadistic than the next. Decapitation, suffocation, neck breaking, and drowning are some of these methods. Each pigeon shot teaches children that violence and animal cruelty are acceptable practices. At these events, children are essentially being taught that animals don't have feelings, or even if they do, it doesn't matter. Animals are only merely commodities. Treating them in ways that control, distress, or even harm them is not only perfectly acceptable, but a fun sport pastime. And it is not only acceptable, but applauded by the adults. Large body of conclusive scientific research, evidence, and statistics confirms that when children participate in or watch adult-sanctioned cruelty to animals, an automatic process of emotional and moral development is blundered by repressing what would otherwise be a naturally evolving sense of empathy, compassion, and caring for others. This developmental impairment is why since the 1970s, the Humane Society of the United States has expressed serious concerns about the psychological damaging effects of animal exploitation events on children. Likewise, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals has issued a policy statement opposing children's animal events, such as rodeos, for this reason. Studies have also consistently demonstrated that children and young people learn cruel and callous behavior from those around them, and that witnessing and participating in animal abuse often precedes cruel, callous, psychopathic, and even violent behavior towards our fellow human beings. Indeed, the group's undercover probe obtained audio and visual evidence that only 40% of the pigeons that were raced survived. In addition to the abused pigeon racing organizations, in particular, the Bronx Homing Pigeon Club secretly dish out hundreds of thousands of dollars for winning bets on races. In New York, where that club is located, a horse is the only animal that can be legally raced for gambling purposes. The clubs are nothing but unlawful racketeering enterprises. Animal cruelty behind sled dog races. Alaska, the annual Iditarod sled dog race is a major commercial event for the state of Alaska. The winning mushers earn cash prizes and become Alaskan celebrities. For the dogs, however, the 1,000-mile race means days of suffering, misery, and some even death. The race begins, and teams of dogs will be forced to pull a sled over miles across the Alaskan wilderness, often running at a grueling pace of up to 100 miles per day for 7 to 10 days straight. Today, the event has become a corporate-sponsored moneymaker. Each participant pays an entry fee of more than $3,000, and winnings of up to $650,000 are shared among the top 30. puts animals' life at risk. Big game animals such as elk and moose who get in the way of the race may be killed, injured, or dropped. Dogs are left alone at checkpoints with their paperwork, 4 pounds of dog food, and a chain. All dogs remain tethered at all times. Rule 42 regarding an expired dog states that all dog deaths are regrettable, but there are some that may be considered unpreventable. In some states, dog sledding conditions might be considered criminally cruel, such as in the state of California, However, Alaska's cruelty law conventionally does not apply to generally accepted dog mushing or pulling contests or practices. The industry itself defines generally accepted practices and protects itself from meaningful scrutiny. Since the race began decades ago, more than 140 dogs alone have died during the event from heart attacks, disease-caused pneumonia, muscle deterioration, dehydration, diarrhea, and spinal injuries. They are impaled on sleds, drowned, or accidentally strangled in the lines. Each musher is permitted to lose most of their dogs along the way of the perilous route, the dangers of which include sub-zero temperatures, gale force winds, blizzards, and whiteout conditions. Mushers can actually be penalized for protecting dogs from such risks, which is what happened in the 2022 race when 3 mushers were punished for sheltering their dogs during a fierce winter storm. Over 80% of these dogs examined in one study were found to suffer lung damage, according to the American Journal of Respiratory and Critical Care Medicine. A study of 28 dogs published in a 2003 issue of Journal of Veterinary Internal Medicine shows these racing dogs, sled dogs, face a significantly higher rate of stomach ulcers, which could lead to further health problems down the road. According to the Sled Dog Action Coalition, during the off-seasons, the dogs are crowded into small kennels and cage crates with no state management or oversight. Many are tethered on short chains at all times, unable to play, forced to sit, stand, and lie in the same small area in which to eat, defecate, etc. When the dogs are no longer profitable, they are culled or destroyed. Weeding out dogs deemed too big, too aggressive, or too old to make the cut of the team. In September, Frank Willingler, a 2-time competitor in the race, was charged with 14 counts of animal cruelty after a crate full of dead and dying puppies was found in his pickup truck. Prosecutors said that Wilker hit the puppies over the head with a blunt instrument, the end of an axe. Wheeler has said in court documents that he shot some of the dogs, a kinder method according to veterinarians, and that he was following advice from fellow racers, known as mushers. He said he could not afford to take the puppies to a veterinarian to be euthanized. Mushers must breed many dogs into existence and from which to select the best ones. Puppies are put on a harness about 6 to 7 months old so owners can see which dogs are likely to be good at it. Temperament, size, and gait determine which puppies make the cut. The surplus dogs, puppies that are born, are weeded out, as the larger dogs are thought to be more injury prone. W5, the most watched documentary program in Canada, aired a chilling report in February 2022 exposing the dog sledding cruelty suffered by the dogs. The networks scored hours and hours of drone footage taken by an activist at multiple dog farms across Canada. The footage revealed the same story. Dozens upon dozens of dogs kept in veal-like crates, deprived of mental or physical stimulation, unable to practice their normal behaviors, pacing endlessly in circles, zoochosis, at the ends of their short chains. W5 also interviewed filmmaker Fern Levitt, whose feature documentary Sled Dogs exposes how dogs farmed, even contained an alleged gas chamber, to kill unwanted puppies. Animal cruelty in the sled dog racing industry isn't isolated to Canada or the race. In 2010, sled dog tour operator Robert Fawcett pleaded guilty to criminal charge of killing over 50 dogs and puppies on a farm in Whistler, British Columbia. He noted that he began killing the dogs in front of each other. When the animals saw what was going on, they began to panic. He ended up wrestling each dog to the ground and standing over them as he tried to carry out what he described as execution-style killings. Throughout the massacre, several of his shots weren't even fatal, leaving the dogs writhing in pain and neck wounds to suffer and bleed until he can shoot them again or slit their throats. He then dumped the bodies into a mass grave, a bone grave, which was later exhumed by local authorities on the ongoing investigation. In addition to the 56 dogs he confessed to killing, investigators found half a dozen bags of dead puppies. Each bag contained 8 to 12 puppies who either had their chests and heads crushed in. Despite the overwhelming physical evidence and the killer's own guilty plea, he received no jail time.
This is Birch. She was just a puppy when she sustained a crippling, extremely painful spinal cord injury, which left her unable to move around comfortably, struggling just to get into her doghouse. Baker and Keith failed to take her to a veterinarian, chained her up, and left her to drag herself through the ice and snow. Baker said that Birch should be put out of her misery, but when the eyewitness offered to provide her with veterinary care, Baker refused, apparently worried about the veterinarian's opinion of them. As he put it, some had run in circles for so long that their paw pads were worn down, raw, or bloody.
Foot right there, see it? Yeah. Wore off. Doing circles back and forth and twisting. Wore their fucking feet off.
This dog, Captain, had open infected wounds on his neck, a result of the constant irritation of his collar as he paced back and forth.